The situation in the United States is unbelievably unfolding, and if someone else had been in the White House, instead of Trump, she would never have become so dramatic. In just a few days, the whole layer of civilization flew from the old man, which he had not so successfully collected all his life, and everything exploded in the place that he considered his trump card. In social networks, it is clear that Trump is unlikely to read what they write to him, and sometimes they pour it on his own eyebrows, because he has 80 million subscribers and thousands or tens of thousands of comments under each post. If we assume that he reads all of them, then he would have no time to not only show himself in public, but even comb his hair or go to pee. Moreover, if he had the courage to simply scroll through his commentary tape and just look at the pictures that were sent to him in return, he would definitely get a rectal heart attack. And there is also a video where black people explain to him the principles of democracy, in terms of racial equality, but judging by the fact that the posts appear with enviable regularity, Trump is not a reader, Trump is a writer. That is, he does not care deeply what they will write in response to his speeches. The main thing for him is to write himself, and he writes. It has long been noticed that the old grandfather has a strong dependence on Twitter, but in this case, you need to take an example from cats that never shit where they eat. In general, Trump fiercely grappled with Twitter, and it looks like Twitter reciprocated and began to block the dirtiest tweets, extending general rules to him. And then Trump lost his temper. He bluntly stated that if he could, he would ban Twitter, but then just wondering where he would post his posts? Of course, there is Facebook, and some kind of Chinese social network, but he did it in vain, because he is increasingly showing his attitude to freedom of speech and freedom of the press. Moreover, he again speculates that he is prevented from saying what he wants and is suppressed by his freedom of speech. But having lived a gray hair, he simply must understand that in social networks there is no manual selection of posts, except for direct complaints. Algorithms work there that mark posts by word combinations, for example, as breaking the rules, and the rules are based on American law. Trump would have to think about the fact that his posts fall under the definition of inciting violence and try to correct his own rhetoric, but he blames the mirror. Meanwhile, the protests have already reached Washington and the White House, and now Trump thanks his Secret Service for driving rabid dogs out of his residence. That is, the protesters. But peaceful protests in the USA are a legitimate thing. It turns out that the press, which does not praise him, should be closed. Peaceful protesters have already become rabid dogs. It became known how Trump sees the realization of his expression that the pogroms will be stopped by shooting. It is clear that throwing police into the city is the same as putting out a fire with fuel. The president also does not have the right to engage the National Guard in peacetime, at least without the consent of the governor, and he will never do this. And now it's clear that when Trump said that he was using the army to suppress rebellion, he was not joking. It became known that the forces of the military police from Fort Bragg in North Carolina and Fort Drum from New York were ordered to be in a 4-hour readiness to speak out to suppress riots. And the military police in the USA are the same special forces, just very specific. In general, right now, even many Trump supporters are watching their idol in action. He creates the problem himself, brings it to an explosion, and then proceeds to dirty threats and very controversial steps that will surely receive their assessments when this grandfather leaves White House. Gradually, Trump turns into the main destabilizing factor in the United States and, most importantly, he enjoys it. It doesn't even occur to him to slow down, not to create chaos, which can develop into anything. Just note that shooting at the Americans is not a good idea, because they have such an arsenal on their hands that they can give an answer to anyone. And besides, the Americans have this right and even a duty if the power has lost the coast, and now this is exactly what is happening.